Welcome back to my reading of my memoir, Rebirth. I'm reading chapter by chapter, so if you just stumbled upon here, I'm now in chapter 5. You can go back to the beginning and see from the beginning of the book or follow from the beginning of the book. If you're here in sequence, welcome. I'm so glad that you're here. Again, subscribe to my channel so you know when the next chapter drops. I'm reading one chapter at a time. And if you like what I'm reading, please like and share and let others know who you think might enjoy this book. All right, so today I'm reading chapter 5, entitled Signs. I could no longer stand the smell of potatoes of any kind. Fries, baked, boiled, it didn't matter. The scent was repulsive beyond imagination. Picture a dumpster full of decomposing material, baking in the sun, slimy liquid collecting at the bottom, maggots crawling out. Now imagine the sludge of 10 such dumpsters merging with the rising stench of a blocked underground sewer. Even that, somehow, is more tolerable than the smell of cooking potatoes, which triggered a full-body distress signal that made me want to vomit. It's all in your head, my sister-in-law remarked during one visit. But it wasn't. I love potatoes. With Irish roots, potatoes were a staple when I lived on my own. If forced to choose one food for the rest of my life, it might be potatoes, just not then. And yes, I know they usually don't smell like much, but then even their subtle odor rivals the stench of their rotting cousins. What makes rotten potatoes so foul? My curiosity piqued. I searched online. The answer? Sulfur. The same compound responsible for the rotten egg smell of volcanic gas, except that comparison is almost flattering. Rotten potatoes do not have a rotten egg smell. They have an entirely different metric scale of offensiveness. That's why I created a house rule. No potatoes of any kind, in any form, ever, under any circumstance. Visitors be warned. So imagine my horror when I opened the front door after visiting a friend and was hit with that unmistakable stench. Who cooked potatoes? I shouted from the front porch, leaning in to project my voice through the house. Mauro wouldn't do it. He's Italian. His staple food is pasta. His feet appeared at the top of the stairs, hesitating, before he barreled down. His expression was already guilty. I didn't think you could still smell them, he said. I can smell them. That's what I've been telling you. I can smell them. But I cooked them hours ago. It doesn't matter. No potatoes means no potatoes. I know they don't smell to you. They don't usually smell to me either, but right now they're suffocating. My kryptonite. I already feel nauseous half the time without any triggers. I just want to breathe clean air without fighting the urge to throw up. Please, no potatoes. Why was that such a hard request to honor? Beyond my struggle with potatoes, my excitement and wonder for childbirth grew daily. I had never witnessed a birth. What a privilege it would be to participate in a new mother's journey, celebrate that moment, and welcome a baby into the world surrounded by community. What if we invited friends to the birth? I asked Sarah and Evelyn at our next meeting, and made it a celebration and meaningful learning experience that reawakens the power and sanctity of birth. They exchanged a glance. My heart contracted, then sank to the pit of my stomach. Sarah took a breath and carefully enunciated, well, she took another breath, then continued, carefully pronouncing each word. My way of looking at it is that you only invite people who are willing to clean your toilet. My face tightened. A silent pause hung in the air. Wheels in my brain, like gears grinding, tried to make sense of her words. My glance darted between them, seeking clarity. Sarah broke the silence. You should only invite people who do anything for you without taking offense. Anyone else will just be in the way. I nodded, understanding her point, though the phrasing was strange. Later, I called my mom and shared Sarah's advice. I'm not excited about cleaning toilets, she said flatly. You don't have to clean my toilet, Mom. It's just a way to gauge who to invite. She changed the subject. After a few minutes of small talk, she said goodnight. That evening, as I leaned forward to climb into bed, I felt a small trickle escape into my pajama pants. I think I just lost bladder control, I joked to Mauro. We'd read that it can happen in late pregnancy. It reminded me that I'd mostly avoided that symptom. Aside from the occasional sneeze-induced leak, my bladder had behaved. But this time, I hadn't sneezed. Maybe the baby had finally settled low enough to apply pressure. Just to be safe, I reached for the bag of adult diapers Mauro's mom had given me. The next day, the trickle continued. Every time I stood up or sat down, a little more escaped. I emailed friends and family to share the humor. Most replied with jokes. One offered a practical tip: switch to menstrual pads, more than sufficient for small leaks. But as the day wore on, I began to doubt my theory. What if it wasn't a loss of bladder control? At my next bathroom visit, I rocked my belly forward and back on the toilet to ensure I was emptying my bladder fully. Still, the trickle persisted. Every time I stood, could my water have broken? I had read, and the midwives had confirmed, that when your water breaks, it's obvious, an unmistakable gush of water. But this wasn't that. It felt more like peeing, and I couldn't say for sure where the moisture was coming from. After exhausting the topic with Mauro, we called Sarah. Let's meet at the hospital for some tests to be sure, she said. It was almost 10 p.m. on Sunday, more than 24 hours after the first trickle, when we met Sarah and Evelyn at the hospital. They assigned us a small room with 2 beds. I sat on one of the beds, and Sarah strapped 2 belts around my belly to monitor the baby's heartbeat and contractions. I didn't feel anything, but the monitor showed mild contractions. The heartbeat was normal. I explained the trickle again. Sarah nodded. Sounds like your water broke, she said, but let's test to be sure. Her grin made her eyes sparkle. She loved tests. The first was simple. Press a pH strip to the moist pad I'd been wearing. If it turned blue, it meant amniotic fluid. If it didn't react to it didn't react to the fluid. Evelyn, also eager to run tests, stepped towards the bed and asked, would it be okay to collect a sample directly from the birth canal? It would help us get a more conclusive result. I agreed, finding her enthusiasm and curiosity comforting. Sample in hand, she left the room. Returning a few minutes later, her face, however, showed no excitement. The second method had also proved inconclusive. A short, silent pause followed. Then Sarah mentioned a third option, the Fern test. It's only used as a last resort, she explained. It involves placing the fluid on a slide, letting it dry, and then examining it under a microscope. Amniotic fluid, she paused to inhale, forms a unique pattern due to the presence of sodium chloride, a pattern unlike any other fluid. Conclusive results are guaranteed. She smiled, exposing all her front teeth, and then looked up as she took another deep breath. But, she continued, since I'm already pretty certain it's an amniotic fluid anyway, let's just go with that assumption. I hesitated. I wanted certainty, to make decisions based on facts. I trusted birth, wanting it to unfold naturally at home, in its own time, not on someone else's timeline. Sarah nodded and agreed to carry out the slide experiment. 10 minutes later, she and Evelyn returned, wide-eyed and grinning. I raised an eyebrow. Inconclusive? Inconclusive, they responded in unison. Sarah laughed. You are definitely not textbook. Beaming, I said, I could have told you that. As much as I loved being different, disappointment followed. I had hoped for certainty, as too many decisions hinged on this assumption. Sarah rested a hand on my shoulder. Based on the information and the slight possibility that you might have lost bladder control, I'm certain your water has broken. We should proceed under that assumption. My heart sank. I was not persuaded. I exhaled slowly through my nose, resigning myself to the verdict. Then we agreed to meet at the clinic the next day to discuss our next course of action, assuming, of course, I didn't go into labor during the night. Back home, I called my mom to let her know. And that is the end of chapter 5 of Rebirth. Again, if you want to know when the next chapter is dropping, please subscribe. And if you like what I'm reading, please like and share with others who might also like to hear the story so that it reaches as many people who are meant to hear it as possible. Thank you again so much for being here. I really appreciate your time, and I look forward to seeing you in the next chapter. Have a great day.